What happens when you finally stop playing weak? When you stop apologizing, stop shrinking, and start standing your ground? The narcissist doesn't back down. They double down. And what they do next will test everything you've worked to rebuild. In this video, we're breaking down exactly what happens when a narcissist realizes they're losing control over you. From emotional manipulation to psychological warfare, each phase is designed to pull you back into the dynamic you fought so hard to escape. But here's the good news. Every move they make reveals a deeper truth, not about them, but about your own strength. And with Stoic wisdom as your foundation, you'll learn how to stay grounded, clear, and unshaken. If you've ever had to claw your way back from emotional control, or if you're in the middle of it now, this video is for you. Hit subscribe, give this a like if it resonates, and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Let's get into it. 1. The narcissist's initial reaction. Escalation and control. When you stop playing weak, when you stop apologizing for taking up space, setting boundaries, and reclaiming your voice, the narcissist doesn't respond with admiration. They respond with pressure. For them, your strength isn't a sign of personal growth. It's an attack on their control. This shift in power triggers their first reaction: escalation. If their manipulation used to be subtle, passive-aggressive comments, veiled guilt trips, that ends now. Suddenly they're direct, confrontational, even hostile. They insult your intelligence, question your choices, or criticize your attitude. It's not random, it's calculated, because if they can provoke you, they can pull you back in, and once you're emotionally involved again, they're back in control. To understand this, picture a co-worker who's always relied on you to fix their mistakes. As long as you cover for them, the relationship is smooth. But the day you stop, when you finally say, "This isn't my responsibility," they don't thank you. They accuse you of being selfish, unhelpful, or even disloyal. This isn't about what's right. It's about what threatens their advantage. Here's the truth. Narcissists aren't interested in who you are. They're interested in what they can get from you. Your boundaries interrupt that supply. Your independence forces them to confront something they can't tolerate: losing control. This brings us to a crucial point the Stoics understood well: the power of emotional detachment. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the exact kind of strength a narcissist can't manipulate. Because if you don't react to their bait, you strip them of the only tool they've ever had: your emotional compliance. Let's look at a real-life example. Frederick Douglass. As a young man, enslaved and oppressed, he endured brutal treatment by a man named Edward Covey, someone who believed fear was the only way to control others. But when Douglass fought back, not just physically, but mentally, everything changed. He later wrote that, the moment he refused to be broken, Covey never touched him again. Why? Because the illusion of dominance was shattered. Douglass didn't need to win a physical battle. He won by no longer playing the role assigned to him. And the same applies here. The narcissist has always relied on you to bend, to explain, to absorb their behavior, and to justify it. But once you stop, once you stand tall and stay silent, they panic. They pull harder on strings that no longer move anything. And that's when they start to unravel. The Stoic Epictetus put it best: freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. You don't need to fight, shout, or convince. You need to master your response. Stay grounded. Because when you stop reacting, you stop participating. And once you stop participating, they have nothing left to hold on to. 2. The emotional battlefield. Doubt, guilt, and psychological tactics. Once the narcissist realizes that force alone isn't breaking you, they shift tactics. Now the battle moves inward, into your emotions, your doubts, your sense of self. They no longer just push, they twist. Instead of yelling or confronting directly, they withdraw. They go cold. Suddenly, they're distant or unavailable. You find yourself wondering, what did I do wrong? That's the trap. It's not about what you did. It's about making you feel like you're the problem for choosing yourself. This stage is quiet, but dangerous, because while it may seem like the pressure has stopped, it hasn't. It's simply turned inward. They'll bring up the past, not to reflect, but to confuse. They might say things like, "Remember when you did this?" or "You used to be more understanding." What they're really doing is planting seeds of guilt. They're suggesting that your boundaries are actually flaws, that your assertiveness is cruel, that your distance is abandonment. And it works, not because it's true, but because it hits where you're most vulnerable. Let's be honest, even the strongest people question themselves. We all have moments where we wonder, am I being unfair? Am I overreacting? Narcissists know this. They exploit it. A powerful example of this dynamic played out in the life of Eleanor Roosevelt. Throughout her early marriage, she often silenced her voice to preserve peace. But once she began asserting her views, especially in politics and civil rights, she faced heavy criticism, including from people closest to her. She was accused of being difficult, divisive, or out of touch. Yet she kept going. Why? Because she learned to trust her values over others' comfort. That's exactly what the narcissist doesn't want. Someone who acts with conviction, even when doubted. The Stoics taught this lesson long before it had a modern name. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." In other words, resistance isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're changing the rules. The narcissist thrives on one thing: getting inside your head. So they stop attacking your behavior and start attacking your identity. They say you've changed, but not in a good way. They imply you're becoming cold, selfish, or unstable. They may even say others have noticed too. People are worried about you. That's not a concern, it's manipulation. And here's where many people break, not because they're weak, but because they're human. Because we've been conditioned to believe that being good means being agreeable. But there's a difference between being kind and being compliant. So what do? You hold your ground. You name the tactic for what it is, a form of emotional control dressed up as caring. And most importantly, you trust yourself. If something feels off, it probably is. If someone tries to make you question your worth for choosing boundaries, that's not love. That's strategy. The Stoics would remind us, your peace doesn't come from how others see you, it comes from how you see yourself. Narcissists want to blur that vision. Don't let them. Because once you stop needing their validation, their grip starts to break. 3. The war of perception. Undermining confidence and reality. Once emotional manipulation starts to lose its grip, the narcissist moves into a more calculated phase. This isn't just about making you feel bad anymore, it's about making you question who you are. The game now becomes psychological warfare, and the battleground is your perception of yourself. At this stage, they no longer try to control your actions directly. Instead, they aim to rewire how you interpret those actions. Your growth, reframed as arrogance. Your boundaries, labeled as selfishness. Your independence, painted as cold or unstable. It's not about what's real, it's about what feels real. And they know exactly where your insecurities live. This tactic is subtle but devastating. The narcissist doesn't say, "You're not strong." They say, "You've changed," with a tone that makes it sound like you should feel ashamed. They might say, "You used to be so kind, so patient. What happened to you? And now you're stuck." Trying to prove that your strength isn't cruelty, that your confidence isn't disrespect. The goal here isn't clarity, it's confusion. If they can distort your sense of identity, you'll start doing the hard work of control for them. You'll start shrinking on your own, second-guessing yourself, and reverting to old patterns. All without them having to say a word. Think of a relationship where you finally stood up for yourself. Maybe with a parent, partner, or friend. You spoke your truth, calmly, maybe for the first time. And instead of dialogue, you got, "This isn't like you. You're being dramatic." That phrase isn't just dismissive, it's invasive. It tells you that asserting your needs isn't part of who you are. And if you believe that, they've won. The Stoics warned against this exact kind of external distortion. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth." But he adds, "If they cannot, then I will continue on the path I know is just." That's the mindset needed here, open to truth, but immune to manipulation. And we've seen this dynamic play out in public life. Think of Muhammad Ali. When he refused to be drafted into the Vietnam War, people called him arrogant, ungrateful, and even un-American. He lost his titles, his reputation, his career, for a time. But he stood firm, not because he wanted a fight, but because he trusted his values more than public approval. Years later, those same critics would call him a hero. The lesson? Your strength may be unpopular, but that doesn't make it wrong. Narcissists try to make you feel like your growth is a betrayal of them, of the past, of your own identity. But the truth is, you're not betraying anything. You're breaking free from a version of yourself that only existed to keep them comfortable. And here's the key. Once you see this pattern, you can't unsee it. Once you recognize that your doubt was never organic, that it was planted, you begin to reclaim control of your own narrative. You stop asking, "What if they're right?" and start asking, "What do I know is true?" Because that's where real strength lives. Not just in standing up to others, but in refusing to abandon yourself. 4. Turning the world against you. Isolation and smear campaigns. When direct control fails, when you're no longer reacting, no longer doubting, and no longer bending, the narcissist takes a different route. If they can't manipulate you, they'll try to manipulate how others see you. The strategy becomes social. Now, the goal is isolation. They start turning people against you. Slowly, subtly, and strategically. They won't say outright, "She's the problem." Instead, they'll plant doubts. "I'm really worried about her. She's changed." Or, "Lately he's been acting kind of unstable." It's passive, almost caring on the surface, but the purpose is clear. They want to make you look like the unstable one while they play the victim. Why does this work? Because most people don't investigate. They don't want drama. They take what sounds reasonable and run with it. A narcissist knows this. They weaponize your silence, your strength, and your transformation by reinterpreting it for their audience. Think about it like this. You've finally broken free from a toxic relationship or dynamic. You're calm, focused, strong. And then suddenly, friends or colleagues start pulling away. People stop reaching out. You hear secondhand that you're hard to be around, or not the same. It doesn't make sense. Until you realize the narcissist has been curating the narrative while you've been living the truth. This isn't a new tactic. In ancient Rome, the Stoic philosopher Seneca faced something similar. He was an advisor to Emperor Nero, and as he began distancing himself from Nero's increasingly cruel leadership, rumors spread. He was accused of disloyalty, treason, even conspiracy, none of which was proven. But the damage was done. Nero turned the public against him before forcing him to commit suicide. Seneca's crime? Holding to principle, while others preferred comfort. The Stoics would tell us, if you want truth, prepare to be unpopular. Narcissists exploit the human need for acceptance. They know that if they can isolate you, your strength weakens. Because humans are wired for connection, and isolation, especially when it feels unjust, can be devastating. But here's what's critical. You don't owe the truth to people who refuse to seek it. The narcissist wants you chasing validation. explaining yourself, defending yourself, trying to clear things up. That's part of the trap. The more you fight the smear campaign, the deeper you fall into their web. It becomes about their narrative, not your freedom. Instead, do what the Stoics would do. Hold your ground. Let the narcissist talk. Let them spin their story. Anyone who truly knows you and genuinely values truth will see through it in time. And those who don't? They were never on solid ground to begin with. Your strength in this phase isn't about correcting the record. It's about refusing to play the game. You don't need to be liked. You need to be free. 5. The final act. False remorse and the path to freedom. When every other tactic fails, when guilt, intimidation, self-doubt and smear campaigns no longer work, the narcissist makes one last move. They fake remorse. Suddenly, the person who dismissed your pain, manipulated your emotions, and undermined your confidence comes back with soft eyes and sincere words. I've been thinking. I realize now I made mistakes. Or, I miss you. I've changed. I just want a chance to make things right. But here's the truth. It's not reflection. It's strategy. They don't feel genuine remorse. They feel loss. Not the loss of you as a person, but the loss of control, of access, of emotional supply, and they'll say anything to get it back. At this point, you may feel torn, especially if you're someone who believes in forgiveness, who wants to see the good in others. That empathy, the very thing that made you vulnerable before, is now their final card to play. This is often the hardest test, because this time, they don't come at you with anger, they come with tears, regret, even apologies, and for a moment it feels like closure. It feels like maybe, just maybe, they've finally understood. But they haven't. What they understand is that this is their last shot. If they can pull you back in, just once, the cycle begins again. Think about people who've faced this publicly. Take Whitney Houston, for example. Despite her legendary success, her relationship with Bobby Brown was fraught with manipulation and emotional chaos. And like many in toxic dynamics, she gave multiple second chances. The pattern repeated. The cost? Not just public image, but personal peace. This isn't about blame. It's about recognizing how deeply manipulation can wear us down when it masquerades as love. The Stoics prepared for this kind of deception, not with suspicion, but with clarity. Epictetus warned, if someone tries to exploit your kindness, let them, but you do not have to give them access to your peace. In other words, compassion does not require surrender. You can care from a distance. You can forgive without returning. What happens when they see you're unmoved? They shift again. The mask drops. Sometimes they lash out, insults, rage, gaslighting. Other times they disappear, they go silent, as if you never mattered. It's another tactic. If they can't control you, they'll try to erase you. But that's when you know you've won, not because they've stopped trying, but because you've stopped responding. You've stepped out of the cycle. You didn't need closure, you created your own. The final Stoic lesson is this: your peace is not given, it's claimed. When you stop needing to prove your worth, defend your growth, or fix the unfixable, you walk away not with anger, but with freedom. And you don't walk away to hurt them, you walk away to heal yourself. When you stop playing weak, you stop living on someone else's terms. You reclaim your mind, your choices, your peace. The narcissist may escalate, manipulate, or even beg, but their power ends the moment you stop participating in their performance. And that's what Stoicism teaches us. That real strength isn't loud, reactive, or dramatic. It's calm, intentional, unshakable. So if you're walking away, walk with clarity, not bitterness. If you're letting go, let go with purpose, not apology, because the true victory isn't getting them to see your worth. It's knowing it for yourself and never giving it away again. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, subscribe for more wisdom, insight, and strength for the path ahead. Until next time, stay grounded, stay clear, and stay free.